Fun. Hello and welcome to another episode of Knowing You, Being You, a series of conversations with change makers who all know that change, no matter how big or small, all begins and starts with you. And today I am joined by the lovely Dominique Oyston. Welcome, Dominique.
Thank you. It's very, very good to be here.
Yes, it's lovely to have you here. So Dominique is a singer, a speaker and a coach and a teacher of the ancient mysteries. And she's at the leading edge of awakening the feminine voice. And sometime last year, and I can't remember when it was, I stumbled across Dominique and I was completely entranced as she was taking us through this wonderful exploration of the feminine voice. And I could not do this series without having Dominique on. So I'm so happy you're here. And for those who don't know you, it would be lovely if you could just say a little bit about your background and how you came to be doing what you're doing.
Well, how I came to be doing what I'm doing is a little bit roundabout, because I started out on a conventional career path to be an opera singer and to be, I was very ambitious. I wanted to be a star. And, you know, we're really fed this idea that is the pathway, aren't we? Rather than a sort of eclectic pathway, it's supposed to be linear and right to the top. And of course, my experience was anything but that. But prior to this kind of career trajectory that I had, where I trained to be an opera singer and learned that art form, I was raised in the theatre. My dad was a theatre director, but he was very sort of mystical as well. And so we were brought up in England, and we'd go to all the ancient sites and we'd pretend we were galloping around being Saxons at battle on the muddy field, and we'd go and tramp as Romans over Hadrian's Wall. And we lived in an old house in the north of England, just outside of Lancaster, called Well House, and it's now B&B. And in the cellar, there's an ancient Roman well, and that well, I just realised, was built over an old shrine of the goddess. So in the cellar, and we painted the cellar with runes, and, you know, it's full of Shakespeare and actors all the time, this house. And so there was a great kind of freedom, and I was always very passionate about nature. I'd spend hours in the garden writing songs to the flower fairies and, you know, like very, very seriously. And dear God, thank you for this beautiful flower, and singing to the flower to really try and capture its essence. And all this childish kind of imaginative freedom really, I guess, stopped when I came to Australia. I was about 11 or 12. There was this sort of lonely period, and I was very, very silent. I was very, very angry. And in that silent and angry time, I was so scared of speaking from anger that I thought I would do damage. I didn't want to hurt people with my voice. I had this real fear that I would literally kill people with my voice. And so there was this sense already of this kind of potency or something about the voice that had the power to lift up consciousness or throw down consciousness. And so I couldn't think of anything else to do, so I became an opera singer. You know. and ended up kind of like I couldn't speak. I only had my singing voice. That's all I had. And all I had was people saying, oh, you've got a nice voice. You should do this. I had no sense of my inner core other than to sort of do what people told me to do and to try and be pleasing, as so many of us are raised to be, you know, be pleasing. Yeah. And so it ended up that I spent years doing opera, moved into music theatre, had a great time, met my husband, we went touring together, it was very romantic. And then I had my first son, and I really stopped for a year. I couldn't keep sort of doing that. And then a friend of mine was starting this corporate group, and it was 4 singers and a pianist. And she said, will you join? Because it's quite kind of flexible with what I could do, and we did lots of kids shows. And then spent the next 10 years traveling the world, corporate act, having a very, very, very fun time, and learning to sing to concrete cutters and car salesmen and lawyers and doctors and prime ministers. And do you know what I mean? Like this, whoever was having an event. And the other girl who ran the group was fearless. And so I gradually learned to open up my speaking voice and actually say things to people as well as sing them. And from this 10-year training, I really actually started to find my speaking voice and get really comfortable with audiences. And the fact that everyone just wants to have a good time. You know, everyone wants to be made to feel at home. Everyone wants to believe the best of you. Everyone wants to actually see you shine, because then they can relax and know that they're going to be taken care of. So it was a really good learning curve. But then I had my second child and we came full circle. I couldn't think of anything else to do in that conventional career path. It just didn't hold the magic for me. So I stopped, I left, I became a mum for a while, and then I decided to become an entrepreneur. And, you know, the whole thing about being an entrepreneur is that you have to find your niche. You have to find your truth. You have to step up and be visible and be seen and be heard and be authentic to actually sell anything. And so it really forced me to come out of the spiritual closet, so to speak, because I'd never talked about that side of myself. And for years I'd been learning to be a Steiner teacher, an Ayurvedic practitioner, and a yoga teacher, or a soma, and I was just obsessed with, I guess, the ancient mysteries and healing. And this entrepreneurial journey has brought me to bring these two sides of myself together. The spiritual teaching that underpins everything I do and I am, and then the facility with the voice and the experience with confidence, how to be confident with your voice. So there it is.
It's a wonderful journey, isn't it, of marrying those bits of you. I mean, that's one of the things I always say, is that all these parts of us, they come together to show us what it is that we are capable of doing. And bringing ourselves forward.
In that can be quite torturous. Like I was in agony about who I was most of the time because I was separated, if you know what I mean, and terrified of being found out about someone who talked about spirituality.
Yes. and yes, I was musing on this on the school run this morning, thinking about we've had to go through that transition collectively of saying, okay, it is not just safe to talk about these things now, but now we are being called to talk about these things. So we've had to go through that journey of within ourselves of feeling safe, and now it is time to really talk about it.
Yeah, it is time, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's time. And right here and right now, those huge doors to the mysteries have been opened. They've been opened, and we're standing at the edge of this sort of vista of possibility going, now what do I do? What does that feel like? I've forgotten it for so long. And this is where the feminine principle of the voice comes in, that unfamiliarity with our voice in that way, because women have been essentially silenced and banished from the public speaking sphere for 3,500 years. And, you know, as early as Homer's Odyssey, when Penelope is the queen of Ithaca, and she's waiting for her husband to come home, and her son Telemachus, who's only about 15, she comes down and she tells the suitors who are sitting in her house being rowdy that, you know, it's too noisy, and that the harpist or the bard should play something else. And the young son turns upon his mother and says, go and take your foolishness to the room. You know, women's voices should not be heard in the domain of men. It was like that long ago. Homer, the Odyssey, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So we are programmed to shut down half of our voice, shut down everything that belongs to the feminine principle of the voice. And we are programmed to put on a pedestal that which belongs to the masculine. And so there is this current imbalance. And so all these women who are soul-centered women, who are spiritual women, are stepping up and wanting to birth their gifts. But for some reason they get stuck here. And it's to do with this forgetfulness. You know, we've forgotten what it feels like to listen to a woman speaking from fluid and raw and divine feminine power. We don't know what that sounds like anymore. We don't know what it feels like. We don't know what it, you know, the experience having this channel. So spirit is streaming through us and it's coming into the body, or our wisdom and our intuition is streaming through us and pouring forth in an articulated, kind of dynamic way. That is not what we are familiar with. And
no, the feminine energy in itself, I mean, is just, it has become alien to us, hasn't it? Let alone the articulation of it.
Yeah, or else it's had very narrow channels in which it could survive. Yeah, you know, like this is the safe zone, or this is the approved zone, and everything else is wishy-washy, fairy, dangerous, terrifying, murderous, chaotic, needing to be put in a cage.
Mm. Yeah.
So
I mean, one of the things that, since I've met you and had conversations with you, one of the things that has dramatically changed for me, and it's extraordinary, is, you know, I had it in my head for as long as I can remember that I can't sing. And because you sort of inspired me, I started to actually sing and use my voice now. Oh, my throat hurt when I started. But you'll love this, because last night I've been, my son's been asking me to sing to him when he's going to sleep. He's just about to turn 10, but and I was like, why do you want, I'm still thinking, why do you want me to sing to you? I'm as tone deaf as they get. And he said to me last night, he said, oh, please sing. I love your singing. I was like, oh, my goodness. And that's such, it sounds so simple, doesn't it? But it is such a massive change for me to be able to use my voice. And because I'm singing, it's also opening up so many other parts of my voice. And that is.
I think that, you know, one of the things I really came to understand is that, assuming you believe in the evolution of the soul, or you choose to believe in the evolution of the soul, there was a period of time where human beings were in this land called Lemuria, or Mu, the motherland. And supposedly, according to, you know, occultists and seers and, you know, people who can see in that way, this is where the division of the sexes occurs. And so this is where the first polarity experience was. And the masculine became very focused in, you know, the enacting of the will, action, and the dynamic of action. And the feminine began to turn inwards and began to develop incredible intuition. And she led with the voice. So this is where all the great matriarchies were formed and were begun. And the voice at that time, language was not necessarily as it is now. So it was the song voice that led, and the sound tone voice, which is very different from, you know, what we consider to be now a performer's voice. You know, I'm a singer. No, this is a healing voice, or a vibrational voice that belongs to women. It belongs to us. That is part of our legacy, part of our inheritance. And the fact that we're all turning in on ourselves and going, oh, my voice is no good, I can't sing. It's an absolute, it's so wrong. It's so not true. I've never met a voice that I can't turn into a singing voice for whatever purpose they long for. Healing, expression, you know, just tuning into the self, toning the energy field, singing to children, you know, just letting that love flow, or calming, you know, in circle situations. It's not about being good. It's about being vibrationally aligned with one's heart, and then letting frequencies move through. And this is what women can do. And when the voice tones, there's magic in it. And people say, oh, there's no magic in my voice, but there is. If you choose to link it up to the places where you have that inner resource of imagination and inspiration and intuition. You know, if the voice is connected in that way, it is an amazing thing. It's an amazing tool for all sorts of change, even if it's just within yourself, as you say.
Yeah, and as human beings, we sort of take for granted some of the things that we have, like our eyes. I know if we lost them, we wouldn't. But you know what I mean? Our ability to see, we don't necessarily question it. Our ability to talk and use our voice, we don't necessarily, or use our arms or whatever. But we were given a voice for a reason, as you know, exactly for that, is to be able to vibrate. It's a vibration of the soul, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very individualized tool. It's a very individualized gift. And so your voice is designed, whatever you've come in with, is designed to fulfill your purpose. Now, your purpose may involve really struggling with the voice. Like my struggle was with my speaking voice. Actually, no, there was a big chunk where I struggled with the singing voice too, because my first teacher actually taught me some technical real problems. And so, you know, I kept on stepping up and then being knocked back because of these technical problems. And it was incredibly, depressing. And I had to work out how to fix it. So that forged my own ability to fix voices, you know, like even if it was really uncomfortable at the time. And so some of us have been presented with this voice that really has, you know, challenges us. And yet in that challenge, of course, what do they say? On the other side of fear is everything that you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the voice is designed to fulfill your purpose. And we don't always know what our purpose is at the beginning. We have to go through that initiation. Feminine is really aligned with initiations. Birth, death, love, initiation, and rest, repose, you know, that place where the child is held on the breast. And everyone just allows themselves to be still. That's a very feminine aspect.
Yeah, and the process of using your voice, opening up your voice, is the part of the process of discovering your purpose, isn't it? It's
Yep.
by actually using it, allowing it.
Yeah. I've got a hashtag out loud. You can't just think it. You've got to get out loud, because speaking is an action.
Yes.
You know, it is actually an action. And so taking from the mind, which is the inner, speaking is usually the pathway that the mind can actually visit the outside world, you know, through that action of speaking or singing or sounding or toning. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it is that one of the things that I hadn't even contemplated was, and I was talking to my hairdresser about this the other day, and she was like, "You've got to tell me when this goes live," because she was fascinated by it. But I was thinking the where the different sounds vibrate in your body. And I had, you know, you just think they're going to reverberate in your chest because that's where it's coming from, or that's where you breathe from. But actually, you know, that was something I had never considered. When you said to me a while back, you said that the sound, is it whom, is very much about the creative. There's a creative sound. And I was like, do you know what? I can actually feel that reverberating and vibrating right down here. It's not up here. So, and I was like, I just never thought about the power of sound to activate different parts of you.
Yeah. And that's in all the Vedic teachings and the Tibetan teachings and Egyptian as well. So all the places in the world where the mystery schools left written records that we can actually access. It's very clear that sound was understood as a vibrational tool. And so but even, you know, you can play with where sound sits in the body. And say, for instance, you can take your sound up into these resonators here, and that's loud. Or you can actually, you know, a lot of people these days are kind of speaking with the larynx pulled right backwards, and you can tell from that what I call a vocal gesture, that person is hiding out. They're actually got their larynx back there. Or a lot of women hold their voices quite high because they don't trust the voice to descend into the body. They don't trust the voice to look downwards, because as soon as the voice looks downwards, we have to look at our feelings, our emotions, our traumas, our physical kind of inconsistencies, all those things that live in the body that are challenging to look at. So everyone's got their voices looking upwards that way instead of down, and actually connecting both ways. So those physical gestures really reveal, I guess, the psychological story a lot of the time. It's very interesting.
Fascinating. So how do you work with people on their voices? I mean, presumably you work one-to-one with people, but do you also be busy helping people in other ways as well? Or
Yeah, I actually love group programs with the voice, as well as one-on-one, because group programs, we're in such a collective experience with the voice, the female voice, that if other women listen on a group call, say Zoom, I have 2 programs in particular that I run, and so we're on a Zoom call. I always open it up to Q&A, and so there's these discussions around, oh, I feel this, or I'm stuck here. And once people feel safe to admit they feel foolish, do you know what I mean? Once that's safe, the container feels safe, then people really start to talk about what is vulnerable and what is, I guess, not understood, that they think they should understand. And then everyone else realizes that they have a similar experience. And so this great unfolding starts to happen. So yeah, I do that I've got a particular sound healing program that's just a 6-week kind of learn everything you can about sound healing and then take it from there. And I've got my membership program, which I love, which is the Goddess Voice Academy. And this is about the feminine principle of the voice. So not sound healing across the board, but the feminine principle and what belongs to the feminine, what has been shut down on us, in us, and how do we actually open that up again? And we have to go back in time, because that's where the answers are a lot of the time. And then we have to bring it back and make it relevant for here and now. So it's a fascinating way of, the Goddess Voice Academy is really interesting because it reweaves those lineages of, oh, wow, I relate to that in the past. So that makes me stronger in the here and now.
And I think also by going back and revisiting, and we've got this sort of social thing as you've got to keep on moving forward, but when we go back, that's when we discover how things resonate with us, and so it makes sense. So after we did the harmonics experiments, and Amy introduced mantras, and so I thought, okay, let me see if I can do a 40-day practice. And although it felt very alien in the first sort of like few minutes, I suddenly realized that this comes very easily to me. And now that's not just because it's come easily to me. That's because I remember it. Yeah. And
sound opens up the memories. This is one of the most potent things that it does. It does 2 things that are really amazing, I think. It amplifies your intention. So if you have an intention and you tone it every day, it amplifies it at least 4 times. So more than doing an affirmation. And the other thing it does is it activates your memory. And so you start to feel your gifts starting to go, oh, I could do this. Actually, I know I'm that. And the sound awakens you. So you have this stream of consciousness and awareness and confidence running right through you because the memories are there. And they don't have to be literal memories. Like, they may not be literal memories. They may just be, as you said, I've done this before. I know how to do this. I claim this.
Absolutely. And that's immensely empowering and liberating. Huge. to realize that you are so much more than you may have spent your life believing that you are, and that you have an immense potential to create in the broadest possible concept of what creativity means.
Yeah, well, the throat center is traditionally in a lot of the kind of ancient teachings, it links up very much with the sacral chakra, which is the womb center, you know, that energy center. And that lower energy center births physical creations like babies, and generates a lot of creative energy up through the rest of the body. And the throat center traditionally births spiritual creation. And it helps those kind of ideas that are your inspired ideas take form in the material world. So that is traditionally the pathway. But if you really want to manifest something, you do it. And you dance it. You get your sacral chakra on board, and you get your voice on board if you really want to manifest. And the books we have on doing that are huge. It's like, oh, I can't do that. We feel that frozenness. And oh, I'll do it later. You know, all the things that come up to do it some other time. But yeah, if we can, that's why a group holds people. You know, that's why a course or something like the Harmonics Experiment or the Goddess Voice Academy holds people, so they can actually rest in that space long enough by being held there with someone else's willpower, really, to let them really start to go, it's okay, I can do this on my own.
And that's one of the themes that has come up actually in every single interview, is that we've gone through our journey to a certain point thinking that we were the only ones who did or thought or felt a certain thing. And when you get together in a group, then all of a sudden you go, oh, we've all been feeling this, we've all been thinking this, but we've been doing that alone. And I know we can actually say and know that it will be received because everybody else understands what it is that we're talking about. I think from my own journey in the last year, that's been one of the most extraordinary things, when I've just gone, oh, you understand what I'm talking about. You get it.
Isn't that liberating? And I think even a few years ago, it wasn't as easy to understand. But now there are people who are just going, I'm allowed to receive this. I'm allowed to open myself up to this. It's not something that will turn me into a strange person. It's something that will turn me into myself, my deepest self. And that's,
yeah, absolutely. So if people have been as entranced as I have by what you have to say, where's the best place for them to come and find you and find out more? And of course I will put.
Firstly, the Harmonics Experiment would be great for people to join. And secondly, my courses are thegoddessvoiceacademy.com and theintuitivehealingvoice.com. And you can also have a look at my website, dominiqueoyston.com. And I've got a Facebook too, which is Divine Feminine Messengers. And so that's just a nurturing space, and it's a free space. The other ones are paid, obviously. But yeah, they're my places where I hang out.
Yes. So do go and find Dominique and find out what else that you can do with your own voice and how much it can liberate you by simply allowing it to be.
It's this thing of the gifts that we carry through. And, you know, we've landed on the planet in this body in this time, and we're there going, I don't feel like there's more to me, and I want to know what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as always, but a pleasure that I really wanted to share with everybody. So if they have not come across you, they need to. So thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for your time. It's been an absolute delight.
Thank you, Polly. Thank you for having me on this wonderful series. It's great.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Congratulations for creating it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.